Well, one of the things that's really I can't really say is bothersome because we did it. Is that when we were in college, high school and college, is that Kirk and crew are too damn young to be in command of the Enterprise. They just are. They're too young. They just got out of Starfleet, and there they are in command of the Enterprise.
Flagship of the Federation.
Really?
Kirk's going to be captain, unproven. He's never been XO on any...
And then they kind of addressed that in this movie and said, oh, he screwed up on Nero and stuff.
And the response, of course, should be like,
blows it
duh, of course he wasn't ready. He's like barely 30. Of course he doesn't know how to captain a ship yet.
And it's like, yeah, we did that in the silly track, but we were kidding.
Well, the thing is, we were kids.
We were that age.
We thought that 30 was old. We thought 30, you should be like an admiral by then. So it's like, we had space captains being like in their 20s. We just didn't think about it. We didn't know. These new movies, I think they know. And
they should know. And
but they've retconned the universe and sort of painted themselves into a corner. They're like, okay, we're doing Star Trek over again. It's the same crew, same characters. But we've kind of made it so that, like, we've pushed them too soon into being, like, on the Enterprise. They shouldn't be there yet. So they just are anyway. Just don't worry about it.
And then apparently at the end of the movie, it's a year later, and it's 2360, so he's now 30. And they've now sent him to be on the 5-year mission.
Which is great.
The original 5-year mission is 2364 to 2369. Yeah. But, okay, fine. So 4 years later. But really... what they should have done in the first one is, and they could have, they should have said, okay, the story ends, you got back from the black hole, that's fine. Kirk, go back to the academy, get assigned to the Farragut, go on your first mission, we'll see you in a couple of years in the next movie. And then have this one be, you know, him getting on, screwing up the mission in the Farragut, that sends him back to the thing, and then we have the Enterprise fight the Vengeance, which is a cheesy name for a ship. And then Kirk redeems himself, so they decide, okay, you can be on the 5-year mission now.
Right. See, what I would hope they would do, honestly, is like, the next movie should be set at least halfway through their 5-year mission, and should not be the Klingon War. I know they're foreshadowing. There's going to be... I'll tell you what's going to happen.
Klingons they can fight.
There's going to be a big, badass Klingon general who can punch people 50 feet through the air, and he's going to show up and be all... He's going to have a big, badass ship, and he's going to threaten the Enterprise, and they're going to go pew-pew-clowy, and then defeat him, and it's going to be the same story over again for a third time, just with different bumps on the damn alien's head. In any case, here's what I wish they would do, and what they sort of like... They keep suggesting they're going to do, but then they don't.
We're going to do it.
Send them off on their 5-year mission, have the story set in space, new alien planet they haven't been to yet. It's about exploration. There's a bit of science and philosophy in there. Ethical
and you can do that in a 2-hour movie and still have it be exciting.
Yes. And they've been out there for like 2.5 years, let's say. They've gotten to know each other. They've bonded. They've got their chemistry worked out. This is one of the things that's kind of bugging me about the Abrams universe is... At first, I thought it was kind of refreshing. I liked that in the first movie they didn't even seem to like each other particularly much, because they wouldn't yet. But by the second movie, they're still kind of doing this pissy, like, slap fighting thing throughout most of the movie. They're like, it's like they
seem supposedly
sort of annoyed with each other all the time, and it's like, okay, that works for the universe that you've set up. Again, it ain't Star Trek.
They're going with the angsty, pissy thing because of the new Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, they want it to be darker, edgier, and like more drama.
And you haven't seen any of that.
So. I've seen some of it.
Some of it.
There goes some of my geek cred, I know. But anyway, so it's like, especially the whole Kirk, Spock, McCoy thing, their dynamic was a huge part of why the original classic show became a classic in the first place. I'm not seeing a hell of a lot of that in the Abrams thing. I think he prefers it when they're all on edge and sort of fighting with each other all the time, because he likes that kind of drama. Okay, great. But I don't want to see movie after movie after movie where they seem like they could barely stand to be in the same room with each other. Set it 2.5 years or however long into the mission after they have some history together, their chemistry's worked out. I want to see this crew acting more like they used to in the original show. Not exactly. I understand it doesn't have to be exactly the same. But bond them a little, for crying out loud.
You know what's interesting about that is there was a little known show that aired on Fox that they... kind of ruined because they showed it out of sequence. It was a serial show.
Oh, yeah.
16 episodes of it about. It's called Firefly. All you brown coats out there.
Yes.
Firefly, they essentially took the Star Wars idea of these Han Solo, Nathan Fallon, and this type of guy with his cowboy freebooters out there in space, You know, kind of Starcrackers in a way, because they're not in charge of the whole fleet. They're just out there and they're cowboys trying to make a living. You know, they're working
it's
sticks.
the working class schlubs, you know.
But the working class, and we thought of Starcrackers way before you, Mr. Wynn, way before you, back in 1991. So about the same time you probably were thinking of Buffy.
Yeah,
we were thinking of that.
That's the thing. We're legitimately geeks, and the fact that Joss Whedon did exactly the same thing says to me, Joss Whedon
and Buffy
is also a geek.
But like the. But the thing about Firefly is, from the very first episode, if you watch the show, from the pilot,
canonically,
from the
chronologically,
when you watch it, they have chemistry immediately
because they have a backstory together.
They have a backstory. They meet some of the characters along the way, and
they
get to know each other.
They're dynamic,
and even though they're angsty, they have fun.
Yes, it's a fun show, and guess what?
And when they made a movie, the movie was awesome.
Yes,
it had all the action and suspense in it. And it had a butt-kicking female character, Summer Glau, but as River Tim.
Yes.
And
you could argue both Serenity and Firefly weren't successes in that they didn't last, and Serenity
really worked.
But here's the thing: Serenity in particular, I'm sure, led directly to Whedon getting the Avengers, and the Avengers has that same chemistry.
Yeah, the Avengers.
Where the characters might fight with each other, but they're not pissed off and ready to beat the shit out of each other like in Star Trek. Their bickering and their bantering is a huge part of the fun. That's the sort of thing Whedon gets that Abrams doesn't.
Well, he knows how to write dialogue. That's what it is. Well, he knows how to put the characters
he often writes his own stuff, and he's a really good writer. But I want to see Joss Whedon do a Star Trek movie. Although you could argue that Firefly was kind of like the anti-Trek in that they weren't like the cream of the crop.
I would say, how they're saying that Abrams wouldn't want to do a Trek series. I would let although Joss Whedon's doing an Avengers. Apparently, he's a producer on the Avengers TV show coming out next fall.
Yeah,
one of the producers. Mm-hmm. But what he should be doing is a Star Trek. You would actually get the idea of Star Trek.
I want him,
but instead of the Enterprise,
he won't. But
instead of it being the Enterprise. It's set in another Star Trek universe, somewhere else. It's working stiffs in space, trying to deal with situations where no one's gone before. That would be cool.
Yeah, I want to see that.
I would totally
if not him specifically.
And then you could explore the cerebral nature of
the chemistry of the characters, the exploration, the sort of like looking up into the sky and going, wow, we have a place up there. You know, Roddenberry was, you could argue that he was too much of an optimist. He was almost sort of unrealistically optimistic about human nature and all. But that was something that really appealed at the time, as the show said, we're going to make it and we're going to get better. And
that's because Vietnam was happening and people hated everybody. And they wanted to make it look better. And also it was the end of the atomic age, and there was a lot of other goofy stuff going on.
But it was appealing, and it stood the test of time.
You wanted to escape from all that stuff.
Well, it wasn't just that, though, because the show didn't disappear after Vietnam. It was something archetypal and universal that it continued to be appealing all the way up until J.J. Abrams turned it into an angst slugfest.
Actually, it disappeared it disappeared in '69.
I'm not talking about its running time. I'm talking about its appeal, its cultural impact.
And then in '78 it came back.
Yeah, and the fact that it even came back as a movie series said that people still have that much affection for it. They wanted to see more of it.
Oh yeah, when that writing stuff happened when my parents were younger, well, not that young but younger, in the '60s when they watched the original, there really was a crazy amount of letter writing campaign to NBC for that time period. They were getting tens of thousands of letters from people. Yeah. And when they had the first Trek convention, my parents were not at that, but they had the first Trek convention. I think I was probably the first one in the family that actually went to conventions, turns out. I wasn't at TrekCon or anything like that. I was too young for that Back to Trek thing the guy Stanley was talking about. Which goes back to the John Stanley stuff. But there was a huge fan following for that show everywhere. It wasn't just geeks. Everybody wanted. When they had the first fan cons and showed that fan con thing, it's a perfect illustration of, even in the Bay Area, they had a huge appeal going back to we happened into that bookstore that they were talking about on that fan thing years later. But I looked at the obscure books. That wasn't the same place. That's cool. But I don't know if it's there anymore. But
probably not.
But in the '90s we walked in there. So Yeah, that's another thing of the. Are we done with the Trek thing yet, or?
I don't know. We've been sort of talking around it for a little while.
Yeah.
It led to an open discussion. Of bigger issues, as Star Trek should.
As Star Trek should, and I try to make my science fiction have a dose of action, adventure, and character development as well, and so
I think we're both much more of the Whedon school of.
Definitely fans of the old Roddenberry stuff.
I'm not saying I'm like as good as Joss Whedon. I'm just saying that's like more to my tastes, and I think yours too.
Yeah, we tend to like and we like the working schlub stories.
Yeah,
as well as Space Admirals.
Yeah, because they're a little more interesting. Like the high level politicians are sort of locked into doing high level politician stuff. I'm more interested in like.
The best and the brightest are dead.
How does a garbage collector work in like
These are the replacements
on another planet? It's like what's real life like? I want to build the world and then live there in my head. So it's like I try to create characters that I would want to hang out with and go have a space beer with after work.
And ended because I remember we did in that summer of 1990 when they did the Best of Both Worlds, and we were essentially paying homage to Best of Both Worlds like halfway through, and you're all ready, Moore, fire, and stolen right out of Best of Both Worlds, and it's like
we were teenagers. It was loud.
We were teenagers. It was loud, and we were putting the script together, and we're going to film the movie with our friends, and we're like, oh hey, this is going to be cool, and then I was like, hey John, and I called you up and I said, we got to do the second half of this because we'll never get it done because we won't get it done.
Yeah,
it'll be like Silly Track. So I'm gonna write the second half. So I tried to come up with a second half and consulted you and coming up with how they might get out of the sphere, how they might work together, because we really hadn't worked out.
Yeah, we sort of hashed back and forth. It took a little while to iron out the ending, but we finally came up with one that was good enough. Things that I admire that he did with Firefly and Serenity is he built a fully thought out world that felt like it really functioned. And had an interesting backstory and mix of cultures and characters. I never actually saw Buffy.
A couple of them, but maybe that song and dance thing, maybe he's ripping that awful Buffy song and dance one they did. He's like, maybe he's saying, okay, this one where they took my show and messed it up, I'm going to make fun of that.
Well, I'll tell you what, you don't have to do it tonight, but I think it's available on YouTube for free, or it has its own website. Just Google Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog.
It's a blog.
It's a movie that Whedon made during his downtime after Serenity didn't do all that well, and he was kind of like, I want to make more things, but nobody's giving me money right now. He financed it himself and just got his friends to make this thing. It's a total labor of love. You should totally see it.
Anyway, so yeah, all the cool ones end up leaving. They leave us behind.
All of my friends from grade school, by the time I got to junior high, virtually every last one of them had moved away. Left me rather isolated, so when I went to my first junior high school, I kind of bombed there. I was doing really bad. I was going through kind of like a sulky, not going to do my homework phase. Ended up going to another school where I met this guy.
And Jamie Lindsay was there too.
One of my longest standing friends. We've known each other since 1986.
86. September of 86.
God, we're old.
Yeah, September of 86, the 20th anniversary of Star Trek. Around there.
Yep.
And now it's going to be this is 2013, so it's going to be around the 47th anniversary.
Something like that.
Yeah, and Star Trek Chimera next December, if all else works out.
Yeah, it won't be this December. It'll be...
coming up this December. I think
this December, you think?
I think we can do it.
We still haven't hammered out post-production.
I don't know how the hell we're going to do that.
Get there. We'll figure out... If we could pull off, like, Starcrackers, which is a live action with actors and prop ships and all, this one,
prop ships
comparatively, should be a piece of cake, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just going to look cheap because it's going to be cheap. That's the...
Actually, Chimera doesn't look cheap. That's the cool thing. Well,
it
does, but it doesn't.
It's action figures.
It's like really ambitious.
But it's very ambitious. So yeah...
Compared to filming in Tim's kitchen for a space set.
I had a bizarre anxiety dream not long ago that someone else like copied our idea from our little just the shorts that are online and tried to make up their own version of Chimera to beat us to the punch. It was hilarious.
Wow.
Because they didn't get any of it right because they just watched the bloopers. So even though their version looked prettier, it sucked. So it's all, well, this isn't going to hurt us at all. If anything, it'll be popular. So yeah, isn't that bizarre? Anyway.
I had an anxiety dream that I was French kissing a raccoon.
How can that be an anxiety dream? It was a space bunny.
It was a space bunny.
That wasn't an anxiety dream, though. That was a wet dream.
Pulling stuff out of thin air now.
Oh, it's like Abrams did with the Star Trek.
Yes.
Space bunnies. I want to see the space bunnies meeting.
I want to see him do it.
You can't online.
Well, Kirk was sort of doing Catwomen in the new movie.
Actually, the Catons didn't look right in that movie. They should have been all furry. They weren't furry. Don't. They should have had fur all over their bodies, and they should have had 6 of them. 6 teats. Then they would have been accurate Catons.
Oh, were they supposed to be from the animated show?
Yep.
I did not even pick up on that.
They were supposed to be Catons. They didn't do it right.
I did not get that reference.
Not only that, know what's weird about that is they were a reference to Larry Niven.
Oh yeah, he
They're
had
the
that
Kanzati.
space cat thing.
They are the Kanzati. They're the Kanzati. They're the cats. That's what they're literally supposed to be. Emras is from, which is weird. It's like, so that means that like Ringworld and the Kanzati world, Mankind's Wars, are canon with Star Trek, which is just weird. Because they go to this, they go to the planet in the animated episode Slaver Weapon, and they find a Kanzati attack group that's trying to find the slaver weapon and get it, and Kirk has to stop him. So it's canon.
Were they actually called that in the...
Yes.
Interesting. I'm usually not a fan of that kind of crossover because it totally blows your mind when you think
it's like how could they be canon with each other? It's like weird.
Didn't the X-Files cross over with some show that had nothing supernatural ever
Brady
going
Bunch?
on in it? Well, no, I mean it was like a crossover with another current show. I forget which one, and it was kind of like, okay, so what you're saying is that in the universe of this other show, all of this X-Files stuff has also been going on. Like, down the street, people are eating each other's livers and making cocoons out of newspapers. I find that a little disturbing, frankly.
What's that from?
I don't know, but it's just like, if you're going to cross over things, you're not just crossing the characters, you're crossing the universe.
Yeah, and although we didn't really synopsize the Star Trek movie, we
didn't really need to. I figure if you've seen the movie, you don't need us to tell you what happened in the movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on here, and this is sort of a behind the deal vlog, and you're welcome to watch little pieces of it. In fact, I wouldn't put the whole 2 hours.
No,
it would annoy the hell out of you.
Well, you'd probably get bored and switch over. I'm usually less savvy about picking out those things, even though I've seen tons and tons of movies, and I'm a huge fan of cinema storytelling and all that stuff.
Blowing up the moon.
But it's like I get so into the movie that I'm willing to just switch off the part of my brain that would want to try and jump ahead.
Even the part when they said it's Khan in the new Star Trek movie, it's like, yeah, I knew it was going to be Khan. I knew they were going to say Harriman and it was Khan. I knew they were going to do that, even though I hadn't been spoiled. I knew they were going to have him just say, "Ooh, I'm Khan."
Yeah.
They should have, but.
Well, I sussed it out when Kirk tried to beat the shit out of him and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Like, okay, he's clearly not human exactly, so he's got to be Khan.
Like an augment.
Or like another augment of some kind, but they're probably just going to go right there to Khan. Which then I was thinking, wait, how the hell is he Khan in the Abrams universe? They haven't found him yet. And they kind of half-assed that in the movie. They were like,
they kind of said,
we wanted to find weapons, so we just went out and found him somehow.
And then built the ship.
Thought him out and convinced him to work for us building weapons for some reason.
And that spaceship.
Which he did.
Which they called the Vengeance, which was stupid.
It's kind of a strange plot if you think about it.
And then, like, what were they doing with the, we're back to the Star Trek movie.
Yeah.
What were they doing with the, like the augments and stuff? Well, maybe the twist is that because the Botany Bay was a sublight ship built in 1996, because it would have had to have been, maybe it hadn't left the solar system yet. And it was still in the Oort cloud, and they just looked around for it. And
in Space Seed, they established it was out there.
Which it shouldn't have been.
Actually, it shouldn't have been unless they wanted to pull one of those, some alien, picked up the ship and drug it over there for no freaking reason whatsoever.
Well, they didn't understand back in the 1960s that they didn't really even get the difference between galaxy and solar system. They had episodes where they would leave the galaxy or cross it or something, or go to Andromeda or something.
Right.
Like they didn't understand that stuff is like completely different, and like you can't have solar system and
some of the
galaxy.
writers did, but some. I mean, they farmed out the writing.
That's like with Stargate, where they just went to other galaxies. They didn't have to, but they did.
Oh yeah.
Even that's even current. They should have known better.
What was that one, Sliders, where they're just like.
Sliders is parallel universes.
A trio of neutron stars enters the solar system. And like one of the actors was talking about that in an interview. He's like, well, I had told them that, you know, a neutron star could be a formidable threat. And so they thought, well, why not make 3 of them then? And they said, you do realize how big they are? And they're like, I don't worry about it. It was ridiculous.
Sliders. That was the one with the multiple universes, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Sort of a precursor to Fringe.
But the science in that one, talk about ridiculous.
I haven't seen any of Fringe, but I guess only the first 2 seasons are worth watching.
I gave it a shot right at the beginning, but it was very derivative of X-Files for one.
Oh yeah.
And it just I don't know, it just didn't click with me. So I guess it got better in later seasons from what.
And then it got worse.
And then it jumped the shark, as these things inevitably do.
And it was Abrams.
And it was Abrams. Talk about jumping the shark. Abrams, Lost, come on.
Come on, Lost it. Come on, dude. Sideways bucket.
Yeah.
I didn't see that one coming. I was like, the only way they can end this is that everybody's really dead and it's in his head, you know, all the time.
It's just like, no, you can't see that coming because it's not even an ending.
It's
Go up to San Carlos for a job.
Denny Craig.
So
anyway, so that's it. That's a big
lens flares.
Dun, 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 dun.